Hi, I'm here on the show floor of Smart Manufacturing Week 2026 and I'm joined in the TM studio with Jonathan Peedell from Bentley. So, hi, nice to see you here.
Hi Molly, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm very good, thank you very much.
Perfect.
Thank you very much. Flagging a bit, we're at almost the end of
Yes.
2 days of very intense, amazing conversation. Yeah.
That's the thing, a bit talked out, but we are getting there in the final few hours and still very much carrying on with the interviews. So can you give us a flavour of the panel session and some of the key takeaways today?
Yeah, absolutely. So our panel session was breakdowns to breakthroughs in maintenance. So this was really about kind of what's changed in the last couple of years. So the theme was really, where were we 2 years ago to where are we now as maintenance functions? There were definitely some common themes. AI always creeps its way into all of the conversations.
Into everything.
Even if it's not the title of the presentation, AI will creep in there. And we talked about, to be honest with you, probably the largest thing that wasn't AI was the training journey. So it was talking about retention. How do we get people to stay within our functions? There's a general appreciation for the fact that maintenance people in particular are sought after assets. They're very, very hard to retain. They can very easily find jobs. And consequently, it tends to be about the experience we can give them. And that directly correlates to obviously their time in a function or their certainly the time that they want to stay with you.
Maintenance is increasingly being viewed as a strategic business function rather than, a reactive support role. You just said how important those people are.
Yeah.
What has driven this shift most significantly in recent years, do you think?
Yeah, money and adaptability. And we are probably in the most cost-conscious time in UK manufacturing, probably in the last 20 years. We had obviously a little bit of a bump through kind of the COVID years. We had obviously a little bit of a bump in 2008 with the global economic kind of crisis. But certainly where we are right now, it's a flux kind of economy. Nobody really knows, certainly productivity-wise, where they're going to be, what investments they're going to be able to make are intrinsically linked to obviously the profit margins of a business. And certainly maintenance functions have that ability not just to maintain obviously the technical uptime of the facilities, they are increasingly being looked upon as possibly asset generation. So rather than maybe going out purchasing new pieces of equipment, you can sweat the asset a bit more, probably with a little bit of homegrown experience from the maintenance function. And of course that ability just to push any investments out a little bit further is becoming more and more prevalent within the functions.
Very closely linked to cost is obviously disruption and downtime. So unplanned downtime remains one of the biggest operational risks in manufacturing. Where are organisations still falling short when it comes to reliability and resilience?
Yeah, I think some of this probably comes down to the fact that most businesses are still only probably halfway through that transition. So lots of businesses now either have machine learning models, some have AI models. We have obviously AI models that tell us when we expect failure to happen. What we don't all have right now is something conjoined that goes away and actually does something about it. So in some cases it can be that we know that we've got something we need to go and do. What we don't always have is investment money to go and do something with it, because it may need spending money to change the asset or spending money and time to actually future ready that current existing asset to make it a bit more reliable. So at the moment it's that end-to-end kind of connection that we probably kind of lack. We know there's a problem, but there isn't really a defined route to then going and fixing it.
Yeah, I mean, you're just leading on to the next question. Many manufacturers are struggling with disconnected systems, as you just mentioned, and poor data visibility. So how important is the data integration in enabling effective predictive maintenance strategies for them?
Yeah, longer term, it will be very, very critical indeed. And the hope is that with a lot of AI solutions moving forward, it will become far easier to join all of these what are right now separate, isolated, individual either platform systems, pieces of connected equipment. It's that kind of lack of connectivity that we have. It's very labor intensive right now. So you can look at a system, subsequently you've got to go and do something manually in the middle to make something happen. Hopefully in the future AI will allow us to be a lot more dynamic and a lot more capable at kind of managing that.
And just on that AI, is there any real world examples that you can speak about now, or is this still a future thinking?
No, not at all. I mean, AI is already kind of here. Predictability algorithms have been here for some time. We're working on predictability algorithms. They're in, they're functional, they're working right now. They have been for nearly 3 years. They on their own are strong and very competent examples of AI that have given tangible benefits. We have mitigated a couple of quite sizable potential breakdowns using exactly that. So we're taking data from haptic sensors. We are not just in a kind of standard machine learning environment. We would just be waiting until we hit an upper or lower control limit. Now we've got a piece of AI that's saying, look, I have an anomaly here, and I'm seeing about a 5% change. In which case, I need to go and do something at the weekend. If I see a 10%, I need to go and do something right now. So a piece of AI is allowing us to do that. As I say, that integrated into something wider that actually goes and does something or goes and raises a work order is the next stage.
That's the next step for everyone. So obviously we was going back, you said cost is a big factor. How can manufacturers justify the investment in predictive maintenance when budgets are currently under pressure?
Yeah, I mean, $1 million question. It's kind of chicken and egg, and sometimes it's about proving there is a kind of a value in a use case. You should never go away and obviously just develop something for the sake of developing something. There has to be a business case behind it. You have to understand the problem you're trying to solve. And what I would say about predictability and those solutions is that they're not actually that expensive to go away and deliver nowadays. It's when you start getting into ecosystems, it's when you start taking on lots of the other functionality. And what I would say is that normally, and particularly within maintenance functions, you have a reasonably healthy skill set, you have some very curious and interested people, and you have a myriad of platforms that potentially you could use to go away and actually start using some of the data that you collect. Now, a lot of that data, clearly it has to go through the compliance routes within your functions, within your businesses, but the data isn't GDPR based. It's not one of those things that's going to trip you over. It really isn't a cybersecurity risk at all. So really what I would say is, go away, look at those solutions. They're not as expensive as you think. Yeah.
No, that's great. And, you just mentioned there about the people and the workforce and curious minds. Workforce capability does still remain a major challenge across the industry, and how are manufacturers addressing the skills gap as maintenance become increasingly digital and data driven? If these AI more technology based skills are required to do these operations rather than maybe what people might think is your typical maintenance man.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's been known, we've known we're going towards a digital world. Take AI out of it, we're always going towards a digital world. So this is app-based solutions. These are, more and more you see pieces of technology that are connected that way anyway. So I think what we have within our functions is, as I've said before, curious people. What we need to do is keep them excited. So they're curious, they're excited to work with technology, they want to be hands-on with AI or digitized solutions. And clearly, if you can't offer them those things, they have the ability to go off and leave you. They have the ability to go and find jobs elsewhere. They are sought after talents. If you're an individual working in a maintenance function and you have a keen eye and a keen understanding of digitization, you have a very, very healthy career. Looking forward, definitely.
Yeah, definitely. Legacy infrastructure is still common across manufacturing. And how can organizations modernize maintenance practices without completely replacing existing systems? Because that's, I guess, their first thought is like, all of this is going to be redundant now.
Yeah. The cost complexities right now are going to force businesses to stall in terms of replacing assets, and the maintenance functions are very, very important in terms of sweating those assets. If you look around the show, we are surrounded by hundreds of companies that offer haptic sensors, IoT devices. All of these things can be configured and bolted onto old pieces of equipment. We've done the same with 35-year-old pieces of equipment in my business, and very successful it's been too. So what I would say is that in a cost-conscious world is probably the best way to go. Measurement is really, really important, and if you can't measure it, you can't manage it. So there are lots of devices. Look around, see what you can implement yourself. You don't need companies to come and fit these devices either. They're things that your maintenance functions can do very, very easily, but it potentially allows you to start looking into how much life have I still got within this asset. you can definitely continue to sweat assets.
Yeah, and I guess that's also closely linked to sustainability. You don't want to waste these assets that you have. If they're already working, how can you make them work almost with what you want to do? It's becoming more important, sustainability and asset longevity. How is maintenance evolving to support both operational performance and environmental goals for a business?
And maintenance functions, again, are very, very good in terms of looking at energy management and optimizations on pieces of equipment. Sometimes it can be down to as simple as looking at even the spare parts that you stock moving forward. You see the difference between kind of IE2, IE3 motor technology, for example. You see 25% differences between those different grades of motor. Technology always moves on. Just because the core asset itself is of a specific age doesn't mean it can't then subsequently be upgraded reasonably cost effectively moving forward. Swapping a complete asset to something that maybe is more energy efficient isn't necessarily the most sustainable thing to do, because cost of scrapping an asset in itself and the waste that potentially comes with that can in itself be counterproductive. So sometimes it's good to look at the asset, see what you can do to make it slightly more efficient, and maintenance people are fantastic at doing that.
Just my final question here, looking ahead over the next 5 years, what will separate manufacturers with world-class maintenance strategies from those that continue to struggle with downtime and inefficiency and maybe stalling to make that big change?
Measurement. I think companies that measure, companies that are open-minded, companies that are very, very keen to leverage the skill sets that they've got to look at their environment. So everybody is bought into that kind of mission to kind of keep technical uptime where it needs to be. It's not always going to be about who's got the best AI solution moving forward. It's more about who understands their environment the most. So measurement is really, really key. Business isn't measure. We will never be a lights out business. People are KSP effectively. They are the thing that makes us an attractive business. So it's more about kind of the investments in the areas that deserve that investment.
Thank you very much.
No problem. Thank you very much, Molly.